This episode is proudly supported by Anchor Food Professionals. Whether you're a caterer, cafe operator, or chef running a commercial kitchen, everyone knows quality products are the foundation of successful dishes. Anchor Food Professionals is a trusted supplier to the hospitality industry and has built a stellar reputation thanks to their consistently excellent butter, cream, and cheese. As the food service business of Fonterra, Anchor Food Professionals is home to many well-known brands such as Perfect Italiano, Mainland, Western Star, and Bega, and is now an important part of the Australian food service sector. Anchor Food Professionals has a history of innovation and expertise in sustainable dairying that delivers a world-class product portfolio. If quality cheese, cream, and butter are important to your creations, head to anchorfp.com.au to explore the range.
A lot of people don't want to change, or they don't really care about the change when we're talking about the people that have been in the industry for 20, 30 years. Whereas I think somewhere like Canberra, whether it be just the general hospitality industry or the wine industry itself, it is small and it is young, and people want to be doing the right thing and people care about doing the right thing.
Welcome everybody to an episode of Dirty Linen, our food podcast. My name is Dani Valent, and as always, I'm thrilled to be with you and grateful for you giving us the time. Your brain space, your ear space is not something that I ever take for granted. So thanks for sharing this time with us. I'm really looking forward to today's chat. It's fair to say it's been a big few weeks for Caitlin Baker. The restaurant manager at Canberra restaurant Such and Such was named Sommelier of the Year for her support of independent producers and her knack for finding the right pour for each guest. In a year in which workplace culture has been a huge part of the conversation, she was also acknowledged for founding Venus Vinifera. Launched in 2021, this education and support community for women, non-binary, and those with trans experience aims to inspire and create safer spaces. Venus Vinifera has just launched Turn the Table, a survey for the ACT hospitality community to anonymously share experiences, to understand what support is needed, what's getting in the way, and what's already making a difference. There is a lot to talk about. Welcome, Caitlin.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Really great to have you on the show. As we head into this busy, we hope, period of the year for restaurants, how are you feeling? What's occupying you at the moment?
Feeling pretty good. It's been a pretty hectic few weeks, as you say, coming off the back of the awards. And on the awards day, we actually launched the campaign as well. So it was a very full-on Monday, as you can imagine. But definitely feeling good heading into, as you say, the hopefully busy period for the end of the year.
Tell us, for people who haven't been to Such and Such, and I have to number myself among them, although I was lucky enough to come to pilot, which you also helped. You also part of the opening team there at the sister restaurant. Tell us about Such and Such. What kind of restaurant is it? What can people expect when they come there?
Yeah, for sure. It's we kind of view it as whatever you want it to be. Such and Such is kind of the place that you can come for a special occasion, but you can also just drop in with a friend for a glass of wine and some oysters. It's really versatile in that way that it's kind of accessible to all sorts of people for whatever you want.
Yeah, love that. Well, Cullen Boys, when he reviewed it last year, said it was one of the most exciting places to eat in Australia, and it really feels like it's just grabbed the moment with that flexible style of dining. What sort of wine are you loving pouring at the moment?
I'm really focusing on female and local, well, not necessarily local, but domestic producers where possible for Pours by the Glass. I think the Australian wine industry is doing so much that's so good, and it's really nice to be able to share that with people.
Is there a producer or a wine that you'd like to pick out and highlight?
Ooh, good question. Oh gosh, sorry.
Because I'm sure there are many worth highlighting, but
there's so many. Definitely. I mean, not a female, but a good friend of mine, Brian Martin from Ravensworth. He's always been a huge mentor of mine, and it's always exciting to be able to pour what's new from him. So we're pouring his Nebbiolo at the moment. And it's all of our staff love recommending it with the duck that we have on the set menu as such.
Oh, I feel like that's on its own. That sounds worth booking a ticket to Canberra. So yeah, hopefully I can do that while you still have that one available. Let's start with Turn the Table, Caitlin, and tell us about it and what you hope will come from it.
Yeah, cool. Turn the Table is basically our way of trying to make hospitality safer, not just for the people that work in it, but for patrons. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, in the media this year about sexual harassment happening in hospitality venues. And I think people are starting to realise that it's not just happening in the big corporations. It happens everywhere, and it does happen in a city like Canberra as well. We basically just want to draw feedback from patrons, workers, managers and business owners about, is it happening in their venues? What are they doing about it? And what do they need support-wise to make it better?
That's interesting. I had missed that it was for patrons as well. Yeah. Why do you think it's important to bring patrons into this conversation?
I think it's a different perspective, and I think it's really important to know how these situations have been handled in the past, because there's no sort of set structure or guidelines in place on how to deal with these issues when they arise in the workplace. A lot of things are handled either incorrectly or just very badly, and it's not always because the businesses don't care, it's because they don't know how. So I think it's really important for us to be able to see that.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. You know, speaking to venue managers or people who, like shift managers, whatever it is in hospitality around the country, I feel that's definitely true. Like people might see something that doesn't feel right, but they don't feel equipped to deal with it. And it's there's just, I guess, a push-on culture where I don't know, a patron might be evicted, but what do you do about the person who was experiencing behaviour that made them uncomfortable? I think putting structures around that is certainly so important, not only in protecting people who are impacted, but in sending a message to other people around those situations. Is that sort of where you're coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we just need to hear what people need and how we can make it better. And I think it's important that we have a lot of voices in that conversation from different parts.
So how did you go about constructing the survey and what kinds of questions are people asked?
There's a pretty big team of us, to be honest. There's about 8 or 9 of us working on this with various backgrounds. So we've engaged somebody that does a lot of data recording for Diabetes Australia. So part of her day-to-day job is writing surveys and drawing information. So she actually helped us build the survey, which has been really great. The questions are asking a lot about have you experienced things in the past and how the situation was handled, if you'd like to share. Obviously asking if you are a business owner, a manager, staff member, patron, etc. And also things like how comfortable did you feel? Was there any follow-up from the business? Those sorts of things as well.
And how's the response been so far?
We've got about 100 responses so far, which has been really good. I think we benefit from Canberra hospitality industry being very close-knit, so a lot of people are wanting to back this and jump on board. But we definitely will need more in order to present our findings to the government.
So tell me about that side of it. What do you hope to do with this data once you've got a groundswell of opinion?
Yeah, so we met with the secretaries to the Liquor Advisory Board earlier this year to sort of see how to go about it, and they've set us up to meet with the Liquor Advisory Board in February or March of next year. They suggested that pulling data that sort of shows what the problem is and then providing, recommendations, but not actually providing recommendations, but thoughts or opinions on what could be done better. Is what they've asked from us.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I know Jamie Burseed from Not So Hospitable in South Australia has been a presenter or a panelist at Venus Vinifera events. Is that the right way I could describe her participation? Yeah. And it was really interesting, when she launched her survey for South Australia a couple of years ago, and she found that she wasn't able to take the findings straight to the South Australian government, that they wanted her to formalise them, and then she worked with University of Melbourne researchers to turn that data into a study, which was an incredible process. She was then able to take it to the government. But I mean, if I feel perhaps, or do you think that she's been a bit of a trailblazer in creating a path where you can go straight to government with these kinds of findings?
Yeah, I think so. I think the work that Jamie did was amazing, and we've definitely consulted with her on what we're doing as well. I think it was very interesting being in that initial meeting, them knowing about her and the work that she's done. So I definitely think that she's played a role in making this easier for sure.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I think, I've written a lot of stories around this issue, and it's been really interesting to see the progression of data, and just, it is quite disparate. Like, a study in Newcastle, a study in South Australia, something in Queensland. But I think once you start to have data from different places that sort of tells the same story, it really does, it becomes compelling, impossible to ignore, and hopefully is part of a movement towards significant change.
Absolutely. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, you launched it in 2021. I mean, what do you think has changed, if anything, in the landscape over the past few years?
I definitely think that women in Canberra for sure are feeling more confident applying for and stepping into roles, whether that be sommelier roles or restaurant manager roles, the people that sort of been involved in Venus Vinifera. We've had a lot of a lot of members feel also confident to take roles in bigger cities, like going to work at Key or St. Peter, or even moving to London after being involved in Venus Vinifera. And the feedback was always like, I didn't think I could do this until I sort of started working with you guys.
Oh, that must be so satisfying.
Yeah, it's a pretty overwhelming feeling, I think, especially for somebody like me that just never had anything like this when I was young. To know that, like, you're making positive change and that it's actually impacting people is, pretty amazing.
I mean, I guess to launch it, you've really put yourself into a role as leader and change maker. Tell us how that's been for you. Like, has it been empowering for you personally? Has it been overwhelming? Like, what's your journey been?
It's a bit of a mix for me. Definitely empowering, but I am a really terrible public speaker. I do not enjoy the spotlight on me, and I've definitely found myself in a lot of situations in the past couple of years where I've had to be the focus. I mean, it's a good skill to learn for sure, but it's definitely been overwhelming in that sense. And also, I guess, the feeling of I'm not doing enough. I wake up every day and I'm like, what else can I do? And sometimes I need to remember that, like, I am actually doing a lot, and, like, I can take a back seat every so often.
I feel like that too. Like,
yeah.
do you think that's a women's problem part? Like,
yes.
why don't we ever feel like it's enough?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I guess it's just the way that we've been raised and brought up, and I don't know. Yeah. It's definitely, like, something I'm trying really hard to work on, and to be confident in what I'm doing and know that it is enough.
Well, yeah, I find it's quite simple to look at you and say you're doing a lot. But, yeah, it's a different thing for women to internalise that certainty. But I suppose it's also a spur to continue. So there's positives. You just hope it's not too draining along the way. I could be talking to myself as well here.
No, absolutely. And I think in, like, the past year, I've really started to build the board and the people that are involved. In the beginning, I did everything and I paid for everything, and it was all on me. And then I realized very quickly that was just not going to work. So it's been really awesome, especially in the past 12 months. I have so many more people on board, and including some business owners here who want to be part of the change. So that's been great, and it's definitely made the workload a lot easier.
That's great.
I couldn't do it without them, honestly.
What was it like at the Good Food Guide Awards in Sydney? It was the first time that the Guide has instituted a Cultural Change Champion Award, and that went to Women in Revolution, which is doing work that's, I guess, alongside you, trying to create positive work environments for women and non-binary people. What was it like to, be part of that night and hopefully, that turning towards something different?
Pretty amazing. The VV started because of the girls from Women in Revolution. I'm friends with quite a few of them, and they were like, why don't you do something like this in Canberra? So I kind of have them to thank. So it was pretty amazing seeing them obviously win that award. That award is so important. Like, it's only a small bit, but it's definitely a move in the right direction. And also just watching Bridget speak on the night, it was like pretty overwhelming. I definitely cried just because she just so eloquently said everything that needed to be said in a room full of people that needed to hear it.
Well, Bridget Raffle from Women in Revolution is, certainly a really strong voice in this space, as are you, Caitlin. What do you think are the advantages or disadvantages of trying to create change in the ACT? I mean, borders are obviously not porous, and people are, moving jobs and, crossing borders to pursue career goals. So it's not like it's a walled city or anything. But is there something different about doing it in a smaller community?
I think, definitely. It almost can be easier. I think hospitality in Canberra is still growing. Like, even the amount that it's grown in the past 5 years is pretty insane. So we're kind of lucky that, I guess, the industry is a bit smaller and a bit younger as well. There's a lot less of the sort of older generation here. And these people are, have lived these experiences and they want it to be better. And I think, it's definitely just... I can imagine it. I don't know. I've never worked in Sydney or Melbourne, so I don't really have, I guess, a read on that, but I definitely imagine that it's easier here.
And what about sort of springing from the wine community? Do you think, is that different from springing from the hospitality industry more broadly?
Yeah, definitely. I think it definitely comes, from it being smaller, but also just younger, I guess, because a lot of people don't want to change, or they don't really care about the change when we're talking about the people that have been in the industry for 20, 30 years. Whereas I think somewhere like Canberra, whether it be just the general hospitality industry or the wine industry itself, it is small and it is young, and people want to be doing the right thing, and people care about doing the right thing.
That's so interesting. And I'd love you to talk a bit more about female winemakers and your focus on them, just, I suppose, to celebrate, women in wine. Do you think, like, what kinds of things are you seeing that you find really exciting and worth shining a light on?
Definitely there's a lot of people sort of around, like, the South Coast that have sort of started making wine in the past couple of years, which has been really interesting, and working with, I guess, like, old world styles. Like, I'm not sure if you know Aristotelis KM Thula. They're sort of near Wollongong, but they do this wine called Retsini using pine resin, like lining the barrels during the aging process.
I didn't know anyone was doing that locally. Yeah. That's amazing.
So that's really cool. And they're, like, not even 30, I think. So they're super young, and it's just exciting to see them. And, like, there's Genie wines as well, just working with, I guess, grapes that are so traditional, like Chardonnay, and just doing really fun things with them. Sorry, does that answer your question? Sorry.
It just makes me thirsty, and just makes me excited about all the different things that there are to explore. What about the Canberra scene more broadly, Caitlin? Like, who do you think's doing great stuff hospitality wise in Canberra? Like, what should be in my hit list apart from such and such?
Yeah. I definitely think Pilot. I know that's a little bit biased because it's part of the same group, but I actually ate there last week, and It was incredible. And it was a lot of young women on the floor. And I like the way that they don't have a sommelier. All of the staff are expected to be able to drop the wine pairings there.
Wow.
So I think it's really cool when you have this 21-year-old that, only would have just started drinking wine fairly recently, who's able to drop these 7 courses and tell you these amazing stories. So yeah, definitely Pilot, Bar Rockford. The guys there are huge allies of ours. They support everything that we do. Everything there is just fun. It's like the funnest place to go after work or for a nice dinner. And then, I'm trying to think who else. I mean, there's so many people I could mention. There's so many places I love to go. Definitely Paranormal Wines in Campbell, run by Max Walker. He has probably one of the best wine lists, I reckon, in Canberra, just because it is sort of that retail space. So he has so much more on the shelves than most people do. He has such a good selection of international and domestic, and also has like a really good balance of male to female producers, which is really exciting to see. I'm really excited to see that sort of shift in people's wine lists that has been happening in Canberra in the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I think once you start thinking about it, and I suppose, I don't know if politicizing your wine list is the right word, but it's just like having a bit of an angle that's not simply, how things taste. I think it's a really wonderful way of opening up not only the wine list, but also the conversations that you can have with punters. And I think it's a really important part of, creating change and improving pathways for women who want to work in wine, in any capacity. I think it's really exciting. So Caitlin, if people in the ACT want to be part of your survey, what should they do?
Just heading to our website. It's just venusvinifera.com.au. All of the information's on the homepage. It's got information about the survey, and it is completely anonymous. There is opportunity to be contacted for further statements if you want, but otherwise we don't need to have any other information about you. It takes about 10 minutes to complete, which I know for some people might seem like ages, but yeah, it would be really good to get some people on there.
Oh, wonderful. Well, congrats on the work that you're doing. You are doing enough, but I know you're going to do more. Really grateful to you for taking the time to have a chat. You've definitely increased the number of places on my Canberra hit list, so I'll have to sort all that out before too long. All the best with the survey. I think it's really important, and it's just great to see so much worthwhile stuff happening in this space. Thanks so much, and chat to you soon.
Thanks, Dani. Appreciate it.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinenat.deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This